Yes, he is. We know that. You can't take him anywhere with you, can you?
Vacation's not working anymore.
Okay, let's see.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to go live. In fact, I think we are live. This may get edited out, but let's be ready. And everybody sounds great. I just want to quickly introduce who we have. To my, I guess it's my left in the top right, say hi to Ron Woods. To my, on the other side of me, say hi to Coach Dick King. Right below him, David Webb. Right next to him, kind of in the middle, is Jenny Gray. Next to her, we've got Matt Watson. And at the bottom, Kenny Mack. That's Ken McAllister. At the very bottom, next to Kenny Mack, is David DeLeo, our wonderful producer. Next to me, as always, is Craig Bell. Here he is.
And we are live right now. We are live and ready to go. So hold on for 2 seconds. Like I said, give us about 2 minutes, 2 and 2, and then we'll be right back with you, okay?
Thank you.
So here we go. The great James Campbell.
Hello. You are at the net. And welcome, friends, to another episode of the At the Net podcast, powered by Tex-Mex Productions. Working the soundboards in the back of the house are our producers, D-Mac and Dave the Brain. Time to say hello to your hosts, Craig Bell and AJ Shabria, as they're about to take us through 3 sets of tennis, talking life and all the news as it seems to them. Ladies and gentlemen, Craig Bell.
All right. Thanks to our At the Net podcast girl. That would be the unbelievable Margot Carter.
Margot Carter, speaking the Queen's English there.
She a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Did you know it's unbelievable? The word of the day is unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Can I pronounce it like Rafa Nadal, maybe?
Yes, you can.
It's going to be unbelievable, no?
Yes, it's
an unbelievable show, no?
It is. Very nice show. And welcome, fans of the great game. You're listening to Season 1. This is episode 75. 75. And this is great for a 75th anniversary right here. You know, we've got some really interesting people right there we're going to introduce here in just a second. But we are at the Net Podcast with AJ Chabry. That's you, AJC, right?
Thank you.
And
Craig Bell. Sometimes we call him CB1.
There we go. We're talking the great game of tennis as it seems to us. Thanks also go out to our good amigo. That would be David DeLeo. Hey, we can see him actually right now.
There he is with the headset on.
The brain is there tonight. Yeah. Wow, we didn't know. He was spying on us there for a bit. Now he's live.
He's the young guy with all the hair.
Right.
He's down there.
With all the hair?
Yeah.
Right. And so
Hey, I found a gray hair this morning.
No way, dude.
Well, we're glad that the brain's on right now. So he's the one that really is producing the show. Yeah, he's moving the dials and twisting, tweaking, and all that kind of stuff to make us look like real people. He's the one that set us all up for tonight. So we appreciate the brain being on just for a couple of minutes. Because he's living in Maryland these days. Have you ever been to Maryland?
I've been through. Yeah,
Have you?
I believe I've played 1 or 2 things down there. I think T. Rowe Price had a clay court tournament years ago in the 90s when I was a tennis player,
right?
Instead of just a tennis coach,
back in the day.
Yeah.
Back in the day. All right. Well, thanks, Brain. We enjoy having you on for however long you can be on. Also, be sure to check out our good work on Fireside, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, Breaker, Castbox, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Spotify, Twitch. We're twitching tonight, not twerking. David Webb's already twerking.
He really wanted to have it twerk.
He wanted to twerk, but it's actually Twitch. YouTube. We're actually on YouTube Live right now. So hello to all of our fans over there on YouTube, but mostly on Facebook tonight. We say hello to everybody. Got a few people watching us, already. So be careful what you say right now because it is they're listening. Big
Worldwide,
Brother's listening. Yes,
yeah.
Right there. All right. So speaking of unbelievable, which was that great introduction by Margot Carter. If anybody would like to read the opening intro, we are biased to the female guests, and so maybe our female guest right now might want to read the
Jenny
opening
would
intro.
do a great job.
Yes.
Plenty of dudes in this house, so good to have a female voice.
We don't let men read the intro. We only allow females to do the intro. So if you'd like to be an At the Net podcast girl, let us know. We'd love to have you read the intro for our At the Net podcast, even in a foreign language. We do foreign languages
Foreign accent,
too.
foreign language. We've had Russians, Czechs,
Yep.
Germans. We've had a little bit of everything, actually.
Yep. So speaking of unbelievable, we have an unbelievable group right there. These are all former USPTA Texas presidents tonight also, too.
Wow. And you are, too. That's a little bit everybody.
Well, yeah, maybe so.
Salute. Oh, and one present USPTA Texas
That's correct.
president. That's Matthew.
Right. We all ascended
I think he already put me out to pasture.
You did? Oh, you're out? Okay. Well, it's good.
Did I get the email?
No. You're next, AJ. So that's you. You're going to be next.
Terrible.
But we are excited. When we thought about this barbershop style group here, we thought about only the best of the best, and especially here in the state of Texas. That would be Dick King up there. Hello, Coach King. How you doing? You doing okay?
You say barbershop quartet.
Yes.
You're not going to sing, right?
Yes, we do. We're going to sing. We've got a few songs we're going to sing. We're going to make you sing for your food. And then we've got Ron Woods over to our left. There's Ronnie Woods from Corpus Christi, right? Home of Whataburger, right?
That's correct. HEB
Right.
Grocery.
Did you go to Whataburger today? Get your breakfast burrito?
I had a breakfast. I had a breakfast on a bun. Sure
Okay,
did.
there you go. See, and then
That's my favorite.
That's
I
it.
missed that.
You missed the. See, you notice there's no good Whataburger in Maryland, is there?
No. There's no Whataburger over here.
Yeah, and
There's
no Buc-ee's.
no.
And no Buc-ee's either.
And ship him some.
No.
No, we're not, he's not that nice. So he only does a few things, but that doesn't go beyond the state border. So sorry about that, Dave. Brain.
It's okay.
But then we also have underneath Coach King, that would be David Webb. D Webb, right there from North Richland Hills, all the way from North Richland Hills, right? Yep. Doing okay over there?
Great. Doing great. I'm getting better.
You're getting better. And in the secret square we have below us, we have Jenny Gray. You know, this is like remember what was
Hollywood Squares.
Hollywood Squares,
or the Brady Bunch.
or the Brady Bunch. So we have Jenny Gray in the secret square.
I think the middle in Hollywood Squares it's a secret square, but in the Brady Bunch, it's Ann B. Davis.
Oh, that's it. This Ann B. Davis. Are you cleaning your house tonight?
There you go. There, my Roomba is named Alice after her.
Alice, and the guy she gets the meats from is Sam.
Sam, that's right. Sam
Definitely.
the butcher.
Yeah.
The meat guy, yeah.
Right. And so thanks to Jenny joining us from San Antonio, Texas, the Alamo City. Pretty nice down there tonight?
It is.
Yep. It's not snowing like it is over
warm.
not like Maryland, right?
No.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Short weather.
And then to her left, over in the other secret square, is the gentleman from Arlington, Texas, best known as the El Presidente El Jefe of USPTA Texas. That would be Matt Doc Watson right there.
Good evening.
Doc, how are you?
Are you having the lemon water?
Lovely.
Do you having the lemon water?
Always.
Always. Okay.
Good job.
Where's
Doctor recommended.
Where's C-Dub? Where's old C-Dub tonight?
Oh, it's bedtime for C-Dub.
Oh, he's already in
down.
bed? Oh, man.
Yeah.
Your son at C-Dub is
My
about
bedtime seems to be getting closer and closer to his bedtime.
It's merging. Your boy is what, about 3 years old now?
Yeah. He'll be 3 in May.
Adorable kid. Yeah, athletic too.
He's good.
Takes after his mom. Everything.
Everything. Even his hair.
Even his hair. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then below David, Jenny, and Matt Watson right there is the man, the myth, the legend, the great Ken McAllister. Kenny Mac, all the way from Austin, Texas, right?
That's correct.
Right? Everything's down in Austin tonight.
Things are good, cool, and it's been a good day.
You keeping it weird down in Austin?
I try to avoid it at all costs.
You do.
But that's the city slogan. It's not my slogan. I made up for those of you who
keep Austin weird.
Keep Austin weird.
It's going to get less weird. Aren't you moving out of Austin?
Do what?
I said, it's going to get less weird. Aren't you moving out of Austin?
I am. I'm moving to Bastrop in a few months.
Bastrop.
Bastrop, just a little
breaking
east.
news. Do we have a breaking news? I don't think we have breaking news right there.
That is breaking news. I've been in Austin 31 years, so moving to Bastrop.
News alert.
News alert. Yeah, that's not fake news, right? It's not fake news?
Yeah.
Real deal.
Nope. It's a real deal.
Well, great. Well, Bastrop's finest now. When's this? Is this in a couple of weeks, couple of months, tomorrow?
Probably April or May.
Okay. Yeah. Well, very nice. I've been over there a few times. I know where that is, to the east, south, and east of the Austin area. Is that correct, if I remember?
It is, mostly east, and one of the older cities, little towns in Texas.
Mm-hmm. Do they have good tennis over there? Can you tell us, since you're a writer of Texas history, is there any history in Bastrop, Texas that has tennis associated with it?
Well, there is, and they one of the older tennis centers, I say older, mid-1900s, was in Bastrop, out south of town, and they were early on, had tennis pro there with assistants, so they did pretty well back a few years back. But they still have a lot of people play tennis in that area.
I can give you a little history on that.
Dick, would you? Yeah,
please.
Coach, please do.
Blondie Farr, who was the second pro at Caswell, won B doubles. That's his claim to fame, like in 1930s and 40s. His girls from Bastrop won 2 state championships. So, yeah, Bastrop has been on the tennis mat for a while. I had about 3 kids at least played for me at Temple College from Bastrop. So,
that's incredible. I do want to talk a little bit about eventually about what everybody does. But while we're on that subject, you just mentioned, Coach King, high school tennis in Texas. Kenny Mack, could you give us shed a little light on why high school tennis is absolutely huge in this state?
Well, a couple of reasons. The original reason probably is Daniel Pennick. Daniel Pennick came to the University of Texas before 1900, but actually was in charge of the University Interscholastic League and the early competition, and got tennis started in 1914 in Texas. But to me, one of the great things is he introduced girls tennis in 1920, 20 or 21. And girls tennis has been competing for state championship in Texas since then. A whole lot of states in the United States didn't start girls tennis until the 1970s and 80s. Wow. So that's established the base. The second reason is, in my opinion, is because of team tennis that started in the mid 1970s. And it was started by the coaches, not the UIL, but the UIL then picked it up. And that is the largest junior program in Texas, and probably the largest in any state in the United States, because every team they have to play 19 matches every time they play a dual match. And so you got to have a lot of kids. And so it's, you put those things together and the enthusiasm and everything, and I think that explains it.
Ken, thank you. And before we go around the room, we'll lead off with Ken. Tell us your role officially and unofficially with the state of high school tennis in this state.
It's in my book.
Buy the book.
Read it.
Read it. This is a book that we've read. I wish I had a copy here. It's Cattle to Courts, and it's on our social media. So we'll throw up a link so people our listeners can grab that. But yeah, you're actively involved, and I know you've presented to Texas Tennis Coaches Association, USTA, and USPTA about it. So thank you for that answer. Any other current and future projects you've got going on, Mr. McAllister?
Well, I was on the board of the Texas Tennis Coaches Association up until a few months ago, when I accepted the job as president of the Texas Tennis Museum and Hall of Fame. I think I was elected. They told me I was.
Are they going to have a recount? Or are they going to have a recount?
I think there's some hanging chits, aren't there?
They simply couldn't find anybody else to do it. But anyway, I've been working with Jim Chaffin and Sarah White and many others with that board. So that's what I'm doing lately.
Thank you. Let's switch back to Dick King. Coach King, you coached at Temple. There are lots of guys my age who were coached by you, and we'll talk about those guys and make fun of them offline after the show. But tell us a little bit about you being a college coach and some of the projects you've been doing.
Well, actually, I started out as a tennis coach in high school at Austin High School. So I started there in 1963. Mm-hmm. And that was Ken's just a young guy. That was a little bit before Ken. And actually...
1 year.
1 year.
No.
64 is when I started.
Huh? starting. I'm talking about age.
Ouch.
Okay.
Wow.
You win.
Anyway, in fact, the fact is that I'd argue with Ken a little bit about, he's absolutely right, but I would add to it about the team tennis, because when I was at Austin High, we started a team tennis program for the city of Austin and had really the first team tennis program in Texas as a district championship. And Ken's right. In '77, then the coaches got together and said, let's make it bigger. In fact, so that's how. But I was a high school coach there from '63 to '66, and then moved on, and then ended up eventually as a pro, and then as a coach, a college coach.
Coach King, tell us a couple differences between. We hear this word all the time, coach and pro. One of our guests considers herself more of a coach than a pro. Our most recent guest, actually last week, Emma Doyle. Tell us your perspective on the differences therein, pro versus coach.
I actually had that on a card. I thought maybe you might ask that. Well, I can only speak for myself. I know that when I didn't, there wasn't much difference between my coaching as a pro or as a high school or college coach, except for when you got to be a pro and a club pro, you weren't maybe so quite honest with everybody in terms of you couldn't drive them quite as hard as you could when you were a high school coach or a college coach, and you couldn't tell them they were really terrible. You had to do the PR. So there was a lot more PR in the pro business. And that does, but I found that my members really liked the hard coaching, the pushing of them, the ladies groups and the men's groups that took group lessons and team lessons that were on USTA teams. They liked to be pushed. So, but some of your students in the club business don't like to be pushed quite that hard. So that's, I would say, one of the big differences.
Coach, that was gold. Yeah,
he's very, very diplomatic.
He is, which he knows how to do. Yeah. Hey, let's head over to.
You can tell the members that they stink, but then you're looking for new jobs. So
yes, exactly.
I've heard it said when you're a college coach, you're paying them, and when you're a club pro, they're paying you. And sometimes that's one of those distinctions. Let's head over to Ron Woods. Ron, you are in the southernmost part of this great, huge state, and tell us your current projects, your past projects, and a little bit of perspective, kind of like Coach King and Coach McAllister have given us.
Thank you. I'm glad you're going in order of age. So, right now I'm retired, of course, and I've been heavily involved at many levels in the state of Texas with the USPTA and the USPTA, but I'm involved with a NJTL chapter here called Tennis Success. It's very rewarding, and but I'm enjoying working with that program, and that's basically what I'm spending most of my time doing right now, playing a little bit of tennis. But over the years, of course, I was teaching pro at an assistant pro at HEB Tennis Center for 4 years, and had a brief stint at the Corpus Christi Racket Club for 1 year, and then moved over to the Corpus Christi Country Club for 31 years, and then became executive director for USPTA Texas. So I've kind of been around a little bit. I've been involved with the USTA, and I think one of the things I'm real proud of, Kenny Mack was talking about team tennis, and he actually was heavily involved in getting that program going when he was coaching. And but league tennis has been just one of the huge factors that came about during my time as a teaching pro. And while I was the chairman of the Texas section league committee, we started a program called Little State. And that's where we took the second place teams from these local winners or the local cities, and had them come to Corpus, and they just had a blast. But I think one of the things, talking about teaching pros, one of the things that we always had to do was to actually have programming. I think that's a big difference between a coach and a pro, is being able to develop programs. But you have to have programs, have to give people a reason to play. And I think this is one of the reasons leagues, the pros got behind the league so heavily. We actually started the South Texas Pro Association because of leagues. And but all the guys got together because we wanted to grow that tennis pie. And for each of our slices to get larger, we had to work together. And in the early days, I mean, we were actually the ones that were rating the players. We'd all get together and look at the lineups and say, oh, no, she's not a 3-5. She's not a 4-5. So we all worked together to get everybody kind of equal in a way. But basically for me, I've been heavily involved at many levels, and it's been a great ride, and just enjoyed what I did. It was fun.
Ron, that's great. And being inclusive like that, like, okay, so they didn't win it, so let's do a little state. That kind of thinking is, number one, inclusive, which is similar to what you're doing with NJTL. And it's also enterprising, and that's something we'll probably get into a little bit later, too. So thank you for mentioning that. Being enterprising is so important, and inclusive. It's so important in this modern age, whether we're talking about pandemic, COVID, or not. It's really important because tennis hasn't always gone up. I know in my lifetime, tennis boom in the 1970s and certainly 80s and even early 90s, but we've been a little up and down, and I'm thankful that we have people like you flying that flag a little bit. If we could, I'd love to shift over to David Webb. David Webb, you've recently won a national level award, and you're the director at I would say, a large facility. Tell us a little bit about what you do and some maybe current and future projects. David Webb.
Well, yeah, we were fortunate to be elected or chosen as the Racket Sports Industry Magazine Municipal Tennis Facility of the Year award. And it's obviously definitely a team effort. I mean, it's, you do think by yourself, you've got to have good people around you. And, that's how people, they make me look good, is the way I look at it, because they're the ones that do a lot of the work and stuff. It's just, it was definitely a shock and a surprise, but we obviously really appreciated it and stuff. I'm at Richland Tennis Center. We have a little bit of a unique situation that we have a joint use agreement with Birdville ISD, and the land that we're sitting on is actually school property, and then the city owns and runs the facility. So I'm actually a city employee, but then all the Birdville schools get to come over and use it. Richland High School is located right next to us, and we're their home facility for their matches and stuff.
I know this because when I've been to your place, a lot of your clientele walks or takes a bike to your tennis center. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I mean,
we've got a lot of people in the area that come over.
It reminded me, obviously this is in the 2000s, but it reminded me of the 70s where a lot of us rode our bikes with a racket or two strapped to the handlebars of a bike. And your place reminds me of that, and it's just tremendous. Well done.
You come over there and you spend all day there and you don't ever go home. And, my parents are always going, when are you coming home? You need to be coming home. At least you know where I am. I'm not getting in trouble and stuff. But we've also recently we've been doing UTR tournaments for like the last 3.5 years, and they've been very, very successful for us. And I've been working closely on some different programming and stuff like that. So that's one thing that we've been doing quite a bit at Richland Tennis and RTC.
That's great. And we were just talking about inclusivity, but also the enterprising side. I saw you nodding, and we've had a few guests recently who've really, you can say, taken advantage of, but also been spearheads behind national level UTRs, whether that's prize money. Craig and I got to do some broadcasting for some of those money tournaments down in Austin, Texas with Christo von Rensburg. But Dave Webb, tell us a little bit about your experience with UTR and what you've done and how that's so different from the traditional tournament model that we grew up with.
Well, UTR really is a platform that you use to run the tournaments and stuff. The thing that I like about it is that we do. Hi, how you doing, Craig? Is that we put everybody in 4-person round robins, and so everybody's guaranteed 3 matches. We do all of ours on one day. We do all the singles on Saturday and all the doubles on Sunday. And the great thing about this is that if someone at the last minute either pulls out, withdraws, gets hurt, something like that, I can bring in someone who's on the wait list, plug them in as long as they're around the same level, and those people still get their 3 matches. Whereas in some other traditional type tournaments and stuff, you're not allowed to bring anybody else in or anything. So that's one thing I like about it. It's very, very flexible. It's a lot of it is up to the particular facilities, how they want to run them. You can run them as a compass draw or round robins. You can do 2 out of 3 sets with a 10-point tiebreak. You can play fast 4 sets. I mean, it's very, very flexible. And that's what I like about it. It's been one of a very, very good deal for RTC as far as revenues and just bringing in a lot of different players, things like that. I mean, our last tournament we had 290 players that had registered. That's a lot for us. I know some of the
and a typical tournament used to be what, more like 210 or 200 people.
Back when we were running some other formats and stuff, maybe 100, 150.
Really? So
you've doubled declining that way. You've
doubled your participation. Well done. Let's switch over to Matt Watson, our president of USPTA Texas. No stranger to UTR, no stranger to all levels of tennis. And one thing that we probably should mention is in these UTRs, and I know Matt Watson's club has hosted a lot of these, you'll get a 19-year-old college woman, a 14 or 15-year-old junior who's up and coming, a 40 or 50-year-old guy who's maybe on his way not up but down, and they might be in the same draw, and it's absolutely tremendous. Matt, tell us your perspective on the side that I just mentioned, but also the enterprising and the inclusive side, and what you do as current and future projects.
Yeah, I think that's been something that's really been both a challenge and a positive for us. I know, for our members, that initial, especially with adults, convincing them to go out there and play because they know they might get beat by a 12-year-old is the challenge. But once we've gotten them out there and they played, I mean, they have a great time. And, I don't know about David's tournaments. I know for us, we're probably 90% juniors, but our adults that play in these events certainly have a good time. And once they can let go of maybe their pride and ego, realize there are some pretty good kids out there that can play ball. They enjoy it. And so it's been fun. I know at least getting like some of my adults out there playing in those events, and it's been nothing but positive feedback. And certainly, as to David's point, the flexibility of the UTRs and round robin formats. We do ours a little bit different. We do 2 singles and 1 doubles on Saturday, and then flip it
to 2 doubles and 1 singles on Sunday.
Yeah. But to get that experience, and I know for a lot of our juniors, I was with our academy for a few years up until last year, and for a lot of those kids, we put match goals for them in terms of matches played and in a year. And the UTRs are a great opportunity, especially if they play singles and doubles. They're getting 6 matches in one weekend. So
that's huge. That's huge.
A lot of our top players that we're trying to get them to play 120 plus matches in a year. These UTRs are a great opportunity to get a lot of match play in, and competitive matches. That's the other thing with, some of your USTA tournaments. Especially if you're a seeded player, you might have 1 or 2 rounds that really aren't too tough. Whereas these UTRs, every single match is going to be a battle. On the junior side, sometimes you run into these kids that are so concerned with their UTRs and then possibly pulling out because they don't want their UTR to drop. But you always have something, right? I think for the most part, it's been a great format, and they've been great events for us.
That's tremendous. Matt, you mentioned 120 matches in a year, and that's on the quantity side. But if you can speak a little bit about the quality side, when you said that it's a kind of an even level rather than winning, 2-0 for 2 matches and then getting to the tough ones, it's basically all at that tough level. Tell us about the quality side, not really in terms of levels, but also styles. Are the kids typically playing each other, or are they getting to deal with a little bit more? Okay, she is a big flat hitter, or he is a, serve and volleyer. Are they getting different styles, and what's your view on the quality?
Well, I think that, that's another great incentive of the UTR is that you're encouraged to compete, because you can go out there and lose a match and still increase your rating, which with USTA isn't necessarily the case. So there's certainly incentive to compete and try to stay in matches, and if you're the higher level player, there's incentive to go out and finish matches, not have those lulls. These players are on roller coasters, which, I think everybody on here can speak to students and the challenges of trying to keep your players motivated throughout the entirety of a match. And of course, we still run into that, but there's incentive now within the format, whether you're the higher rated player to finish these matches out the way you should, or if you're not the higher rated player to compete and keep the matches close, and in turn you're going to improve your rating. And as or in regards to play, it's a crapshoot, right? It's like any tournament. I mean, you don't know until you sign up, you get out on the court, what style of player you're gonna have. And that's the other thing, with some of these adults coming in, especially maybe down a little bit lower UTR, 6, 7, maybe 8, where you've got some scrappy adults who are good athletes and know how to put the ball in play and can actually think their way through a match a little bit, versus these juniors that are ball strikers that have beautiful strokes, but nothing going on up here.
The problem solving side, huh?
Right. Yeah. So you've got that, which again, in a traditional USTA tournament, you're not going to have. So, I definitely think there's a lot of pluses to the UTR tournaments, just as there's pluses to USTA. I think they're both great, and we certainly encourage our players to do both.
Good stuff, Matt. Thank you. I know you're at a club that prepares a lot of, you mentioned it could be 90% juniors in these. You're preparing a lot of kids for college tennis and maybe even pro tennis, and I'm happy you're using UTR in that positive way. Let's head over to Jenny Gray, the notorious JMG. We're saving the best for last because this was Professional of the Year on the national level in the U.S. Pro Tennis Association. Jenny, first of all, let me say congratulations, and number 2, tell the folks at home, thank you. A little applause. Thank you. And, tell the folks at home, whether they're on a podcast platform or watching this live, tell us a little bit about your current and future projects.
So I recently moved from the lovely Austin area to San Antonio to take over one of our larger properties here in town, and we've got 31 courts. So I've spent about the past 6 months getting acclimated and meeting people and keeping awesome programs that were in place going and creating more programs and trying to keep people out on the courts in the pandemic.
Tremendous. Jenny, tell us a little bit about your background. And I know you grew up in the great state of New Mexico. Let's get into background a little bit. How'd you start off in the great game of tennis?
I actually did, King. I started at Austin High. We had moved to Austin for about a year and took a PE class at Austin High, and it was tennis, and just kind of got hooked up through there, and then went back to New Mexico and played and just kind of got under the wings of some really amazing mentors along the way and decided to make it my career path. And then, within the industry, I've maintained some really good relationships with mentors. Have created other opportunities. So
thanks for mentioning mentors, because I consider everybody in this room, in this Zoom, a mentor to us, but so many others too. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But if you'd like, shout out some of those mentors, and maybe you can give something, some way that they helped you in a concrete way, whether it's as a tennis player or as a pro and a coach and an administrator.
I think first I have to start out with Maureen Fitzgerald, who's a professor in Austin, Texas, who's, a recreational player. And she, I was in college and at the University of Tennessee, the real UT, by the way.
The other UT, the real.
And I was trying to decide if I was going to go PTR or USPTA. And she kind of swayed me towards USPTA. And then, along the way, I worked for a pro that was on the USPTA board, Guillaume Gauthier, and I just kind of got hooked in with it and started my way up the process and had amazing mentors like Ken and Ron, and then traveled the country with David and Craig.
Wow.
And
Me?
Who knew? Where you're sitting today.
That's great. That's quite a group. Ken McAllister, let's move back down to you as we work our way around the horn a second time. Tell us a little about you and your role that you've taken very seriously as a leader and as a mentor to so many younger tennis professionals.
Wow, that's a broad topic. I would focus almost more on the people that helped mentor me, but it's kind of you to even consider. It's when Jenny says that, it makes me feel good, but we were sharing all through this. When I was inducted into the High School Tennis Coaches Hall of Fame, I made the point that when we think we're mentoring kids, the fact is they're mentoring us. And what I learned from all my kids, all of my students, and then of course my peers as you go along through all this time, is mutual mentoring. And also I appreciate that perhaps some people felt like I mentored, but it's a sharing thing with tennis, and you do your best, and then sometimes it sticks and sometimes it doesn't.
David Webb, I feel like you want to add to that. Can you elaborate a bit?
Yeah, Kenny Mack was one of the testers whenever I took my USPTA test, and I remember one of my love languages is words of affirmation. And so when I got my test scores back and stuff, he had put on there something to the effect that David Webb, with a little bit of work, is going to be one of the best pros around. And that right there meant a ton to me. So I appreciate that very much.
So that was a pat on the back, not a kick in the shorts, is what you're saying.
Yes. I respond much better to that.
That's great. Coach King, you gave us a little bit about your background. Tell us a little bit about you mentoring people. You mentioned some of the differences between being a pro at a club and a coach in college. Tell us a little bit about some of the leadership roles you've taken outside of, off a tennis court.
Well, go back to the mentor thing.
Yeah.
I think we have to, what Ken said, you get to be old, you might look back and say you were a mentor. When you're going through it, you're not thinking that. You're trying to help people. And if you really like the game, and we weren't going to we didn't start out making much money in this game, but I love tennis and I love coaching. And so it was a matter of getting the best and making the kid or the adult or whoever it was to enjoy the game and get the best out of it. And later on, we got those letters that said, I remember, and you did this for me and that, and we always loved that. But I didn't think about it when I was going through it. But as far as you talking about, I mean, I was just a guy that was in love with sports. I played football and basketball and baseball, played tennis, and then I coached Little League basketball. I coached Little League football, Little League baseball. So it was all the same way, was to I enjoyed the game. I enjoyed the finer points of the game, the strategy of the game, the head part of the game, the part about being able to play under pressure and all these things. And we grew up, I will say this, and this is probably going to come into something later, but we learned the game a lot differently than the people do today. We learned the game by playing it. I never did a drill in my junior years or anything. Even when I went to college, my coach didn't use drills. So we played, and that's and therefore I think mentally, and this is a controversial question, which would be a good discussion on another program, or it's a long question, but is that the problem today, that we're really not on the national scenes with our men's tennis? Is it because we learned how to hit, the guys that are playing today learned how to hit out of a bucket or out of a basket, or why? But McEnroe, I expect, played a lot of sets. I expect that Federer played a lot of sets. I don't know how much they did in terms of just drilling. So again, that's kind of
Coach, that really ties into Matt Watson's point about having match goals, meaning quality and quantity, and Coach Watson's idea of having about 120 matches in a year. I do think, Coach King, you're right. It's a huge loaded question because it's not just tennis. As a guy who's done some soccer coaching too, it used to be learn, play, and let's refine technique, and there's a lot of structure to the day of a young player now, and it can be argued that it's a little bit too structured. I want to pick up on Coach King's point about
say one other thing on that.
Please, yes.
I don't know if you saw, and it was on the news this week sometime, Matt Knoll talking about picking a guy for his team, and he rode up the elevator with the guy, one of the new, and he decided on the elevator ride up that guy wasn't for his team. So that's one of those things that just by a conversation in an elevator, he did not get picked by McNoll's pro team. And I'm Rules, who I'm talking about, the ex-Baylor football coach, who's now, And he said the elevator ride is the up when he made the decision, this guy's not for us. So there's a lot of things that go into that winning player.
Off the court, off the field, yeah, that's an interesting point. Coach King, you made a point, and I want to shift over to Ron Woods in a second here. You made a great point about mentorship, and sometimes when you're young and you age a little, you don't know that it's time to be a mentor. I have realized this very subtly, that the average age of the tennis pro went from about 47 to 48 to 49, and there are a lot of under 30 tennis pros who would love to see some mentorship. I want to also mention that long before I was 50 years old, I saw this great book by Ron Woods and his wife. It talked about tennis after 50. Ron, tell us a little bit about the process of writing that book, and what you might convey to the people, or people like me who recently have turned 50.
Oh, wait a minute. You're talking to the wrong Ron Woods.
There's another Ron Woods.
Yeah, different Ron Woods.
Right. That's so good. But you're so experienced with that. Tell us a little bit about what your philosophies are on that.
Well, as far as mentorship, I've never ever really thought of myself as a mentor. I just tried to always lead by example, and I've just been fortunate that quite a few of my assistants that worked for me over the years have gone on and have actually gotten jobs as directors of tennis. So I'm proud of that. I'm always proud, of course. I don't take the credit, but the kids that I've worked with. I feel like a little bit of what I expected from them rubbed off, and they've done well. And so mentorship it's kind of a strange term. And, when you start dealing with and saying, hey, would you like to mentor a pro? Well, basically nowadays, I know, for example, Jerry Mango, he's on a list of mentors for the USPTA. And really what it is that other pros can call him, or young pros, and ask questions, and get his advice. So I think in that vein, it's good that there's that type of mentorship program. But from my point of view, like I said, I tried to do is just lead by example. And I never did get my PhD like the other Ron.
The other Ron Woods. That's so good. And you also did.
They're lovely people, and I know Ron and Kathy very well. And I used to get checks for the other Ron Woods when he used to give clinics for the USTA. So I always enjoyed getting those checks.
I bet you also enjoyed getting the checks from the other Ron Wood, who played guitar for the Rolling Stones.
That's a big check.
A big check,
right?
Yeah. Too, yeah. I can't even play the radio, much less a guitar.
That's great. Craig Bell, you may have a few questions, and I know you've been producing and running our social media.
Yeah.
Tell us some questions, and let's see if we can get the group.
Well, I was thinking about. There's a lot of questions that I was thinking of just as they were talking. We've got a lot of great panel there. That always leads to a bunch of different thoughts. I've been working with the crowd here also too, so I'll ask a question here just a second. Ron brought up a point. Do you find it more? Let's see, what's the right word? It's not appealing. Do you find it more gratifying that one of your students has done really well, or maybe even one of your pros, or is it the same? It's because I know Kenny Mack's had a lot of great pros. Coach King's had a lot of great players. Probably some great pros that you've worked with as well.
If I have a 2.5 lady that did well, I'm happy.
Right.
I feel like a great families. So, I was very happy there. But whether it was, like I said, a 2.5 lady, or I've had kids that have gone off to play collegiate tennis. I gave Steve Denton his first lessons.
Wow.
So, I've been able to work with a lot of kids, and I'm proud of them. But I don't really look at it as I developed them. They developed themselves. I just gave them some tools and gave them a program to be involved in. And like Dick King was saying, getting out, they got them to hit a bunch of balls, and that's how you get good. And just hopefully made it so that they had fun. And if they had fun, and they were going to continue to play, and also put a little fire in their belly so that they would excel.
Ron, are you the one, you mentioned Steve Denton, who worked at HEB in the tennis center in Corpus, and then now he's the men's head coach at Texas A&M. Are you the man who taught him that crazy serve with the walk-up and the 140 mile an hour?
No, like I said, I gave him his first tennis lessons. I never worked on it serve. Actually, he was developed probably by Ken DeConing. He was the guy that really worked with Steve, and I think made him the player that he became.
Well, I remember Denton coming to my junior tournaments when he was 12 and 14 years old at Caswell. And he would lose in the first round, and then I'd see him for 3 days running around shooting water guns at everybody. Never did I think that he'd end up where he is today in terms of his tennis abilities.
Oh, that guy! I can still hear the rumble of his serve, and it was bigger than his doubles partner, maybe Kevin Curran. Even it was 140 something, and you could hear it like from another court.
You'd hate to be Kevin at the net, with your back towards Steve, and he let one go and it got away from him, and it probably stood you up. He either hit you in the head or in the back. I'm sure that's happened, a few times. That would not be. You could hear it.
Never know, when you're working with these kids. What they're going to develop into. Like Steve, he came out, he's a little overweight kid. His cap was on sideways, and his mother brought him out to the courts because he suffered from asthma. And his doctor said he had to get out and, exercise more and get his lungs working. And so once he started playing, I mean, he really had he was a good basketball player as well. And so he's a decent athlete, a very smart guy. And so he got a lot out of his abilities, but he had that, of course, he was big in stature, and he had that big serve. And with he and Kevin getting together, they were a super team. And it's always been my theory that once you get your confidence and you feel like you can play with the other guys, and that's where he made it well on the Pro Tour, because he and Kevin did so well in doubles. He got that confidence. He knew he could beat those other guys. I mean, he ended up beating guys like McEnroe
and Fleming, right? Yeah.
Oh.
I got a two-part question for everybody here, so that brings it up. Do you think that other sports are important to play? Because what Coach Ron said, Steve played basketball, and did you all play other sports prior to playing tennis? So a two-part question.
What a great question.
Yeah. Anybody wants to answer, go ahead.
I think absolutely. You've got to be a great athlete, I think, to be a great tennis player. The challenge now, I think it's just getting tougher and tougher because of the organization of sports, especially at such an early age. But I certainly think so. I know we try to promote it at T-Bar-M with our younger players, to do some other sports. It's just a challenge nowadays. But certainly if you're going to be a well-developed and well-rounded tennis player, you've got to be a well-rounded athlete.
Did you play other sports?
I played everything. Baseball, basketball, tennis. Played a little bit of football. Basketball was actually my first love. And I grew early, and I was really good. And about 8th grade, I was power forward, played under the basket.
Wow.
8th grade came, and I stopped growing, and everybody else kept growing. And all of a sudden, I was a little guy. I was like, I don't know. My parents finally, I think I was 16 or so. I was still playing baseball at that point, but, they gave me the choice. I said, what do you want to do? And if you're going to keep playing basketball and baseball, then we're going to stop the tennis lessons. I was like, 6-foot little kid, probably not going to do too much more in basketball. And baseball, it was too slow. I didn't like all the standing around. So I stuck to tennis. But certainly I think it's so important, for these kids. And then burnout too. I mean, here I was playing a ton of sports, and I graduated high school, and I had, some offers to play in college, and unbeknownst to my parents, that was kind of their college fund. I all of a sudden was like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to play tennis anymore. And credit to them, they didn't really say anything, but I think I gave them a heart attack. Basically, at the last minute, ended up playing in college, which I'm glad I did. I mean, I loved it. But, for a kid that played a lot of sports all the way up through essentially until my junior year, I was burned out. I think that's such a challenge now with kids committing to sports, a certain sport so young, to be able to keep them in the game, motivated, with passion. And like I said, just be a well-developed athlete. And, one of the things with tennis, of course, is you go all the way up to high school anyway. Then you get a taste, of what it is really to play on a team. But until high school, you don't really get that team experience like you do with all the other sports. And then, of course, you get to college where, you're really, understanding what it means to play on a team and have a guy right behind you, ready to take your spot, and what kind of motivation that is, which you have in other sports. We talk about that a lot at the club with our kids about, how nice it would be if there was some accountability, and kids weren't given their all one day at practice and say, you're on the bench and come next player, step in.
So has C-Dub already committed to a sport at 3? Have you already got him, on training?
Yeah, he's going to play basketball for Kansas. So.
Okay.
Shooting guard. That or golf, one of the two. I don't know.
Right, one of the two. What about you, Ron? Did you play sports growing up as a kid?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. When I was a kid, I played. I actually played football in grade school back then, and I went over to junior high and I tried out for football. And the school I went to, of course, back then, junior high school had ninth grade, and they had guys that had been in the ninth grade for about 2 or 3 years. So I kind of used me, the little skinny gringo, as a blocking dummy. But my parents had a mom and pop grocery store, and they had a rule that if you weren't involved in some kind of activity, sports, you had to work in the store. So I had to find me another sport, and just heard on the PA system one day about, trying out for the tennis team. And of course, back then it was a sissy sport, but I had to do something. But that's how I got involved in tennis and went out, started playing. I fell in love with it. But I didn't, after 7th grade, I didn't play any other sports. I just really played tennis. That was really what I concentrated on. So, but I did encourage my kids in my program, so to play basketball, soccer, baseball, those were sports I felt complemented tennis. And so I encouraged them and to do that because I thought it was good for them. Soccer, particularly for footwork, I thought it was very good.
What about you, Jenny? Did you grow up playing sports or?
I grew up playing soccer.
Soccer.
And I'm with Ron. The footwork and the whole concept of moving forward, really, at least for me, correlated really well with tennis. So I agree. I think kids need to be exposed to a lot of sports because we're seeing too many 12, 14-year-old kids getting burned out. They've stuck to tennis since they were 8 years old and been playing tournaments, and those are the kids that aren't going to play high school and college tennis, and we won't see them circle back until they're in over 18s and trying to get them into leagues. And it just keeping them balanced when they're younger, I think, will help us keep them in the game a little bit longer through high school, college, and adulthood.
Jenny, I love your point about balance in an overall large picture sense, but also in the small picture, the balance that you get from physically from basketball and soccer and other sports. And also something that I hear from orthopedic surgeons is also the rise in repetitive use injuries when somebody plays only one sport, i.e. 52 weeks of soccer, indoor and outdoor, or what we do see among the burnout crowd is the 52 weeks of tennis only. Let's head over to Dave Webb. You've had some other sports out there in West Texas where you grew up.
Yeah, I was kind of like Ron. I tried football in 7th grade, and I had the opposite deal of Matt Watson. I was so small that my thigh pads were knee pads and my knee pads were ankle pads. And so, I was running down the field and the helmet was slapping around. So I had played baseball from, Little League, Pee Wee League, all the way up to 7th grade. And then I had a cousin that invited me out to go play tennis. And I said, yeah, sure. So I went out and played 3 hours barefooted because I didn't have tennis shoes and had a baseball game the next day. That didn't work out too well with the blisters. But, I thought, well, I can be mediocre at 2 sports or dedicate all my time to one. And I'm so glad that I chose baseball. No, I'm just kidding. I chose tennis. And so, it's just, and I tell my players too, I said, try a lot of different things and find something you've got a passion for. That way you're not being forced to it. You don't have the burnout thing. If you're liking it, then get after it and do it. My parents never once, forced me to do anything. It was like I said, I was always getting in trouble for not coming home from the tennis courts because I just loved it so much.
And David, you're raising a generation of people doing the same thing to their parents right now.
Yeah. So, it's just, I'm very blessed. I get to make a living at what I love to do. And I've been fortunate to be at really good places and doing it with good people. So, I don't have any regrets on what I'm doing.
Great perspective. And your line about passion, it was advice for our listeners, but really forget tennis. That was business advice. That was career advice. That was life and family life advice. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Coach King, we got to go to you about this other sport thing, but also, I know you grew up in Illinois. Tell us about the sports you played there and tell us about your transition down here to Texas. And why do so many people myself included, from other states moved to Texas?
Well, yeah, I did play. I played football, basketball, baseball, and tennis. I played 4 sports in high school, all through high school. I had a chance to play. I did play a half a year of college football until I blew a knee out, and then it became only tennis. But I really thought I was going to be a baseball player. The baseball at that time was probably my best sport. But anyway, I did go on and play college tennis, and you say, how did we get to Texas?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you how I got to Texas. Now, I'm going to use Ken McAllister's line here, and it is, all this I'm telling you is in my book.
Yes, because I want to talk about riding the tennis wave.
Yes.
It's a book we featured on a couple of our social media posts. Tell us a little bit about that.
So, well, before that, you asked me how I got to Texas. Yeah, and this story is in the book, that when I was a junior in high school, 1976, the movie now I have to even think of the movie. I hadn't thought about this story for a while.
It's actually in your book. It's in the book. Yeah.
It's in the book, right?
The no book test.
Well, anyway, that shot that story. I'll think about it for a minute. By the way, we were talking earlier about who was in the Rat Pack, and it was Peter Lawford that I was trying to think of. So I did remember that.
Excellent.
So, but anyway, I got to Texas because of that movie, which came out in 1956. And I always said I was either going to go from Illinois because of the bad winters, either to Texas, California, or Florida, where I could play tennis all year round. And so anyway, I saw that movie, and it was about the oil business in West Texas and all that. Giant. The movie's Giant.
James Dean.
Rock Hudson.
Rock Hudson, right.
Yep,
He
there
was
we go.
known too, by the way. But anyway, and lo and behold, I got an opportunity to go to graduate school in Texas, and so I ended up in Texas, at North Texas State at that time. And then I was going to go back to Illinois, and I never left. I stayed in Texas. So,
And we're glad you did.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Very much so. Very much glad you stayed around the great state. Everybody wants to move here all of a sudden, because
it's a great nation of Texas.
It is. It is at that. We do have one question from one of our listeners, listeners, I guess followers, Nick Smith. He sees other sports getting athletes. Do we feel like maybe tennis is that expensive? Maybe it's easier taste success and cost less, to produce a player, because now versus a while back when I think we all grew up, it didn't cost as much money. Do you think cost is part of the issue that why American tennis maybe, I wouldn't say on the decline, but at least that is that one of the contributing factors? Maybe we don't have as many players?
one of the things I think is cost could have something to do with it, but I just don't think the kids today have as much fun in tennis that I had when I grew up in tennis. And I don't know if it's the emphasis on the rankings, if that has something to do with it, the stress. We played the game because we love the game. We love to compete. We're like David said, you'd stay out all day at the tennis courts. His parents knew where to find him. We had the bug for tennis. And sometimes these kids are playing because mom and dad wants them in a tennis program or for whatever reason. But we know it's hard to be an expert or really good at anything if you don't have, you can't do it unless you have a passion for it. And you can get all the lessons you want. And if you don't have as my mother and dad would say, if you don't have the drive, you're not going to be able to do it. So I think that's one of the problems where we lose them, is that they lose interest and they're really not having as much fun as they may as being on a team. And that while ago we were talking about the advantages of playing other sports. On a team, you learn teamwork and working with other kids and be with other kids. So much in tennis the only person you're on the court with is the person you want to beat. And sometimes these kids don't even want to talk to that person when they're off the courts. So I don't know. That, again, just to throw out a little food for thought. Now, maybe you're wrong, but that could be part of it.
I would agree with Dick. Going back to what he said, I mean, I had two lessons my whole career. I mean, and it was twice in high school with John Phillips, who went to West Texas State University. You know him, Kent?
Yeah.
And
he was the first guy to welcome me to West Texas when I went to Amarillo, David.
Yeah. And I did the same thing. I mean, I'm going back to what Dick said.
Yeah.
I just played. I played every tournament I could play. It didn't matter how big the city was or how little. I mean, out in West Texas, there weren't a whole lot of, big cities to go to or anything, but it was just a matter of going out and playing. And I didn't even really know anything about getting ranked or anything until after I got out of high school. I was oblivious to that. I just wanted to go play, and I think that I go back to that. I've got two boys that I started teaching about six years ago. They're two brothers, and it just kind of fell into this where we'd do 30 minutes of drills and stuff. And then the last 30 minutes I had them play each other, and they developed so much quicker because I think it was because we were working on some certain things. But then when I got to actually see them play, it was, you were able to coach that and stuff. And I've started doing that more and more with a lot of my lessons. I'll have a lesson, but I'll bring somebody in to play a practice match. And it's not so much that we're keeping score as we just, we'll serve 5 points. And then that way we're just looking at their strategies. How are you playing the point? How are you setting it up? What was your thought process on that? And it's been working out pretty well.
That is old school, and these days you hear all these newer words like gamification or game-based approach, but this has been around. There's no need to reinvent too much.
What's old is new, what's new is old, huh?
Yeah.
Just semantics.
Yeah.
I think
I'd just like to
back to go ahead, Ron. Sorry.
These kids, they just have so many other things to do nowadays than they used to.
Options.
When we were growing up, I mean, gosh, it just wasn't that. We were playing soccer in Corpus Christi, for example, but soccer's become huge, lacrosse, hockey. I mean, there's so many sports out there. Now, to the question of becoming a good player, does it take money? It does. I mean, you have to admit, if you're going to want to excel in this game, you've got to be able to be in some kind of program. But I think that a professional is working with you to bring your game along. But we do have a lot of kids that are playing tennis, a lot. And thanks to team tennis in high school, Texas has the largest amount of kids playing high school tennis than any other state in the nation. I mean, but it's because of team tennis. But there are a lot of kids out there playing. They're just not playing top level tennis, I would say. Now, a lot of them are, but they're generally playing for their high school, and then they're going off to some academy someplace to train. So it's just, it does take money if you want to become a good player. I mean, I feel that way. I mean, I'm not going to discount the fact that somebody can just go out and work on their own, work real hard and become a good player, but that's awful difficult to do in this day and time.
If I may add, even the players who do organically work on their own at lower expense to get endorsed for national opens and to go play ITFs, that's a pretty penny also. And that kind of brings me back to what Dave Webb and Matt Watson talked about, how UTRs democratizes a lot of that and hopefully reduces the cost of trying to chase 120 matches of good quality. Craig, any other questions before we go to our third set?
Let me add.
Kenny
Mac. Let me add.
Please, Kenny, thank you.
He's been quiet. He's been awfully quiet on the subject.
Yeah, what I want to add is the business of why is tennis up there with the other sports. And we know in the United States that tennis is not up there with the other sports if you list the sports in the large size down. But if you ask the question in reverse order, how do you become a great football player? How do you become a great basketball player? How do you become a great baseball player? And so on. And then how do you become a great golfer and great tennis player is in a different category. And the whole thing is that you don't have to really have any money to prove yourself in the team sports of football, basketball, baseball, and all, because you can get everything through public school all across the United States. Then if you can get into college and still play, the same thing. But the main thing is in your local communities, when you're 8, 10, 12 years old, you have the community programs and the soccer, which was mentioned a while ago as being there by Ron, and all. And then the Little League baseball, the Little League football, all of that stuff is community based, and all those kids are in those programs. They got to pay for those, but it's still, that's how they become. And so tennis is just a different animal, and it's a different animal because at a certain point you've got to get in the programs you got to pay for, and then all of the play that you have to pay for, not a school bus to take you there. So
yeah, that's a good point.
Yep, very, very good point. Yeah, that's I always thought that was kind of an issue with tennis from that standpoint, that what you're saying, that most of the bigger sports, they can kind of stay around in one area, and then tennis, we do stay around in an area, but we have to expand a little bit. It seems like, to go get competition, which is what if the parents want to be involved in it, then it seems like that especially like at the club I teach, if they want to go to the lake for the weekend, if they want to do something else besides drive their kid around to a tennis tournament, it's got to be their vision, I think, as much as the kiddos' vision. And I think maybe 30, 40 years ago, 40, 50 years ago, it wasn't necessarily the case, but I think now it seems like it's developed or evolved into that. I'm just making an observation here.
Well, and it also seems like now there's so much more emphasis on rankings and college opportunities. And I don't remember going on a court in high school thinking this is going to make or break any college opportunity for me. And I'm afraid that's what some of these younger high school kids now feel like. So it's a different beast.
Yeah, I know a lot of the kids, like, we don't have a ton of withdrawals in the UTRs, but we do. And I had one kid that I called to, see if he was planning on coming back for his next match. And he goes, no, he said, he gave me some lame excuse about, it's Sunday and I hadn't been to church for a while. And I said, well, didn't you know that going into the tournament? Yeah, well, and then it turned out he was a 10 UTR and he was going to have to come back play an 8. And he was afraid it wasn't worth his while, or he was afraid he might get beat. And I think sometimes they don't understand the way the ratings work for UTR. And so, like Matt said earlier, if you win a match that you're supposed to win and you win it, decidedly, you can still up your UTR.
I think, and I want to segue into what David's talking about, but, also just the challenge of our sport, especially at a young age. You take soccer, how hard is it? Take a little kid, throw a ball on the ground, let him kick it around and have fun, or baseball, t-ball, and then coach pitch. Whereas with kids, I mean, they've got to, if they want to actually play, it's them. Now with the Rogie system, that's helped, but it's still, I mean, this is not an easy sport to play when you're starting out, whereas other sports, a little bit easier. And to that, you can be on a basketball team, you could be on a baseball team, not be very good, or maybe not have a good game, but that can be covered up by your teammates, and you can still win, and you don't have that stigma of failure that with tennis, it's just you don't play well, you lose, it's on you. And I think, also kids are softer, when I was a kid, I mean, my dad didn't care if what my coach said, what my teachers, I was always wrong. Didn't matter. There was no, let me get your side of it. But these kids are just so coddled. And I think that's another challenge with our sport. As I said, you can play another sport, still have success, maybe not even be very good, or maybe you have a bad game, whatever it may be. But these kids are just, so many of them are way too soft for our sport, especially. I mean, you have got to be a mental warrior, tennis and golf to me, especially, to be able to be successful at this game. Whereas, as I said, you go out, maybe you're a good basketball player and you have an off night, but your teammates pick you up and your team still wins and you walk off the court. It's no big deal.
Well, that mental thing, that was my problem. Now I know.
Yes.
Late in my career.
Right. Yep. Matt gave you the secret sauce right there. So now you can go back.
Thank you.
Now you're good for senior tennis now, David. You can start.
Ready to go.
There's still hope there. All right, let's shift over to the third set. AJ, what do you think?
Shall we? Yeah.
Yes.
Who's the third set brought to us by tonight?
That would be
Coach?
the great Blair Descray with Master Systems that they're right above us. That would be Blair and the gang with Master Systems. Anybody that needs court accessories, resurfacing, new surface, anything to do with tennis courts,
pickleball courts, sport courts, basketball. We've been talking about other sports and
badminton,
everything.
Anything to do with a ball and net, possibly. Check out Blair Descray with Master Systems. He's our friend, our buddy, our pal. So. Blair does a good job here in the Texas area. All right, now what we're going to do, typically we ask a lot of questions in the third set, but I'm going to pare it down. We've got 3 questions coming out for this group before we call it an evening because we don't want to. It's past Matt Watson's bedtime, so we know that. So he's got to get up early. So we're not going to ask our normal. We can go pretty far in depth. But Coach King, favorite band? Who's your favorite band? We're going to really.
Huh? I figured you were going to ask that.
There we go.
And do you remember Glenn Miller?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember Benny Goodman?
Yes. Big band. They were big band.
Big bands were my favorite bands.
Yes.
And then by the time I got to high school, it was groups, and my favorite group was the Platters and the Four Lads. So that's my where I started my music.
Good stuff. The Platters. That's beautiful music.
Yeah. Kenny Mac, do you go further back than that? You don't go for Beethoven, do you, or something like that?
Well, I'm kind of in the jazz band kind of era.
Oh,
too.
Really?
Yeah.
Who do you like?
So, well, J.J. Winding.
J.J. Winding, sure. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Groups like that, and but then after that, it's Leonard Bernstein.
The great Leonard Bernstein. Yes.
New York. New York.
Very, very nice.
Yep.
Any particular song from Leonard Bernstein, or just his whole collection?
Yeah, West Side Story.
Are you a Broadway show person? Will you go up to Broadway? In a non-pandemic time.
I do my best to be able to see Broadway. That's true.
Will you break out in song for us right now?
No.
Ronnie Woods, Lone Ranger. Who's your favorite band? Who's the Lone Ranger's favorite band?
Well, I just grew up. I kind of like all genres of music, basically, but it's kind of like Dick. When I was a kid, my grandfather used to live with us, and he could hear his radio playing, but you'd hear those old band tunes, Guy Lombardo and Benny Goodman, and but then grew up in the 50s and 60s, and Elvis came along, and Bill Haley and the Comets, so I just kind of grew up with that music. But basically I an old buddy of mine, Gene Peebles, and I, we were roommates at U of H, and we went down on Telephone Road in Houston to a club and saw in person, Bo Diddley.
Wow.
Bo Diddley.
Wow.
Just the Bo Diddley beat.
Can you dance like Bo with the guitar?
No, man, he was unreal. But I just, it's according to the mood I'm in. I like any type of music. I don't say I have any favorite band. Lois pulled me into the Astrodome one year to listen to The Who. That was, we were going in there and everybody was, first concert I ever been to where they were checking handbags and everything for, not so much, guns or something, but for, drugs.
Yeah.
Were there any lighters? Were there any lighters that were going on?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, they
at
were
the
up
Who.
Do you know what that means?
Yeah, we were up there
Yes,
in
at the Who.
kind of up in the rafters there.
Right.
We were sitting up in the rafters next to Cheech and Chong, and they were passing around.
Now, this is where we're getting good. See, this is what we will like in the third set.
So good.
Right. David Webb, come on. Who do you
Had a lot of fun.
Well, as a kid, my mom and dad used to listen to Lawrence Welk every, I think, Saturday evening.
Lawrence Welk.
I mean, I like that. I'd say probably my favorite group is Alan Parsons Project.
Oh, progressive 70s
Yes.
rock. Yeah.
Yeah.
Favorites?
Anything from the 70s. I mean, that was high school and college, and so it was anything from the 70s I'm good with.
Do you like the Edgar Allan Poe songs from Alan Parsons?
Yes.
Yes. I know the Alan Parsons Project.
Yeah.
I listened to a few of their, I guess that was 8 tracks. I wore a few of their 8 tracks out.
Yeah, me too.
Right.
We're dating ourselves.
Yeah, we are.
Love it.
But that was always cool because they were the intro song for the Chicago Bulls, and everybody's like, "Who's that group?" It's like that was Alan Parsons. When they introduced the Bulls in Chicago at the United Center, that was the Alan Parsons Project song. Was that not correct?
I believe that is correct.
There you go. See, I know my music from Alan Parsons. Jenny Gray, come on, give us some country and western or country western or Zydeco, rap.
I would have to go 90s version of Dave Matthews Band.
Oh, there we go. Really? Mm-hmm. I didn't know you were Dave Matthews. Did you know that?
Jenny, I bet you've seen him in concert a few times.
A few times, yeah.
Where at?
Actually, my first concert was the Thompson Twins.
Oh, that's it. Late 80s, I guess. Yeah.
Where at?
Tingley Coliseum in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
New Mexico.
Wow, the Thompson Twins.
Hey, back to Dave Matthews a little bit. Boyd Tinsley is a big tennis guy. In fact, Dave is a tennis player.
I think he had a challenger for a while.
In Charlottesville, Virginia, I think.
Charlottesville, yeah.
That's it, yeah.
Wow, Dave Matthews Band.
Good call, yeah.
Yeah, pretty woke. They're pretty woke, aren't they?
Definitely.
Matt Watson, come on, you got to have something up in Kansas. What do you got there? What'd you
I'll
listen
say this
to?
about Alan Parsons Project. The only thing I know about Alan Parsons Project is Austin Powers. Man, that's tough. I listen to all kinds of music, but if I probably had to pick one that I listen to the most would be Kenny Chesney.
Chesney,
our first entry into Thompson Twins, and
Followed
also Dave
closely by Phil Collins. Those two are probably the most on my Alexa call list.
Did you say Phil or Bill Collins?
Phil.
Phil. Okay, I thought you meant his brother.
Genesis.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
No, Phil Collins. I didn't know that. Or so, would you be a drummer in the band? Are you a drummer? Where do you sit in the?
Here's a funny. So I'm the youngest of 7, and everybody played an instrument in my family.
Really?
And,
okay.
Yep. Everybody played something. And when it came time for me, my mom said, "Well, what do you want to play?" Thinking at that point we had a piano, we had trumpet, trombone, we had all kinds of instruments in the house. And I told my mom, I said, "Well, I'm going to play drums or I'm not playing anything." And she said, "You're not playing anything." So I never played anything.
Shut that down real quick.
So funny.
I thought you might play the spoons or something. You don't play the spoons or no? Okay.
I did play triangle.
Tennis racket was my instrument.
Yeah.
Cowbell. I need more cowbell. Yeah, Matt Watson.
That's right.
You're a big famous cowbell.
Yeah, Kitty Chesney probably the most played.
On the playlist there. Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Kenny's, let's go down to Kenny Mack.
Kenny Mack.
He told us about jazz and Bernstein, but
yes.
What do we got next for Kenny?
Kenny Mack, okay. What do you like to do in your spare time? This is part 2 in the second set here of the third set. Does that make sense, where it's in the second set of the third set?
Yeah.
All right. What do you like to do in your spare time, Kenny Mack, besides write books?
Oh, besides write books?
Yeah.
What else is there?
Well, I can think of a few things.
Okay. I have telephone calls with Henry Cox.
Telephone? That's good.
Does that qualify as something to do in your...
Yeah, spare moment. Just talk on the phone.
When I was working at USTA, I didn't have any spare time, so I never really got into the habit other than the writing. which is what I did after retiring and all, and trying to get back in touch with friends, which has been special. So I still play a little tennis, but otherwise I just happen to be married to a very lovely woman that keeps me happy.
We all say you outkicked your coverage.
No, there's no doubt. There's no doubt about that.
Coach K, what do you like to do in your spare time?
That me? You say Coach K?
Coach K, you're Coach K.
I'm kind of like Ken. When you retire, you think you're going to have a lot of spare time, but the time goes fast. I still play a little golf. I definitely keep up with a lot of friends. So I'm on my cell phone quite a bit with weekly calls to people I haven't talked to for a while. And I still have, I'm a history buff. So I listen to a lot of audiobooks and read a lot of books. So I should be doing a little more writing. I keep saying I want to write a little more about tennis history and especially Texas tennis history. And I want to kind of compile some stats for the USPTA, which we've kind of lost our and maybe you guys can clarify that for me, but it seems Mel and I did talk about it. When we go back, we kept a pretty good history for a while, but then it seems like we've kind of done Facebook and a lot of the online stuff, and we don't have those lists anymore in yearbooks or something like that. It's in a hard copy. For example, just to keep track of all the presidents in the past and master pros and award winners and all this. And it's probably out there somewhere, but I kind of told Mel that I was going to start that project, and I have. And if you could see behind me, you could see a big pile of papers and stuff but it's harder for me to find than I thought it would, a lot of this stuff. So anyway, that's kind of
AJ knows all that stuff. You just call AJ.
I don't go back far enough, but I'm happy to help always.
We go back, but I'm talking about the written
yes.
part of the now I know we cover it well on you guys covering it and Facebook covers. Somebody gets an award, you're on Facebook and all that, but that goes away. And so if somebody wants to look back and say, where do I find out who was the president? We can go way back and find out. And maybe there is somewhere that I don't know. So
it might be a question for Charlotte.
5 years ago.
Yeah, I think Charlotte has that. I think that's what usually was given out at the annual meeting in February. So I think she's got the database of that.
Yeah, that would be, I think it would be something that maybe it's already there, so I shouldn't worry about it.
Lone Ranger, what do you like to do in your spare moment?
Well, kind of like Dick and Kenny, I'm sure we're retired and you think, you're going to have a lot of spare time, but you do try to find some things to fill your time. Believe it or not, I kind of enjoy working out in my yard and doing honeydews around the house. I still play a little tennis. Stay up late watching Columbo and Perry Mason. But other than that, that's about it.
Murder, She Wrote. You watch Murder, She Wrote also, too?
Kenyon Lacey.
Is Lois standing right behind you? That's why you said you'd like to do those honeydew lists?
Yeah, right. She's already crashed.
Do you talk on the phone? I know last time I checked with you, you had a flip phone, and you were not in.
I wish I had that flip phone back, guys. I hate to tell you that. I had a hard time just trying to get on this Zoom meeting.
The flip phone is gone.
The flip phone is back.
Is it back?
Believe it or not, a lot of the really hip woke people are like, I'm off this internet. I'm getting a A flip phone.
Like they had on Star Trek to beam me aboard.
It'll be back.
Ron Woods was woke before woke was even.
Exactly.
I'll tell you what, I've gotten on this Facebook, and what a big time killer that is. Thank God I didn't respond to any of these political comments that came through last week.
Amen.
Or we would have been kicked off. We wouldn't have been able to do the.
We would have.
That's right. D-Web, what do you do in your spare moment?
I like to golf. I mean, that's kind of my main thing, golf and watch some TV and stuff like that. I'm like Ron. I like to do yard work and stuff. I like the mowing part. I don't like the flowers and that detail stuff. I like the instant gratification, mow the yard and look back and see what it is. So
you watch Murder, She Wrote and Matlock also, too, in Columbo?
Matlock, yes. Murder, She Wrote and some
Golden Girls.
Hey! Don't hate on my Golden.
Jenny Gray, what do you do in your spare moment?
You know, I used to run. Running was my outlet, but in the past, I guess about a year, I've gotten really into my Peloton bike. So
Really?
the bike that goes nowhere.
Right.
Air conditioning.
Do you have the instructor yelling at you as well? Do you have the instructor? Come on,
Oh,
Jenny,
yeah.
do one more. Come
Oh,
on.
they can be mean.
Can they really?
They can be mean.
Are they live? Are they live typically? Or
Yeah, you can do live or on demand.
Okay, yeah. I've seen some people have Peloton bikes. I didn't know that anybody of my friends did. Wow, that's great. So every day, are you spinning?
I try every day.
That's
The
incredible.
reality, not every day.
Not every day. Matt, what are you doing? Doc Watson, besides chasing C-Dub.
Man. Yeah, I'm playing a lot of monster trucks, doing some pretend fishing, trains, adult stuff.
Right.
Like most guys. That's pretty much my spare time. I get out, play a little golf, but most of my spare time is occupied with 2.5-year-old activities.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I think
yeah,
C-Dub needs him a little running mate, doesn't he?
yeah, I keep getting that. Yeah.
Oh, besides you.
That was me.
Besides
Is that not
you.
me?
No, besides
I was a
you.
running mate.
Right. You said you were.
How?
You
I'm
said you
supposed to chase 2 of them.
You said you were one of 7, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, I think my parents started a little earlier than I
Oh,
So,
okay.
They finished at my age.
I
when
got you.
started. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, third line of questioning. This is a two-parter. All right, this is a two-parter. All right. Normally we end up with one finishing question, but I want you all to before we get to our finish line. Who's your favorite tennis player? Kenny Mack. Who's your favorite tennis player?
Oh, wow. Ken Rosewall.
Really, Kenny Rosewall. How come you like the slice backhand, or do you just like his?
I just like his first name.
Kenny.
Kenny.
Oh, that's pretty basic.
There you go.
I want you to tell us the reason why the Battle of the Sexes isn't over. I love this story. Have you heard this story?
No, I want to learn this.
Ken McAllister says the Battle of the Sexes is not over. Tell us why.
Well, long story short, I called foot fault on match point, but nobody caught it.
We're talking about Billie Jean King, Bobby Riggs, 1973, Houston, Texas.
Yeah.
You called the foot fault. The crowd went wild. Nobody heard it.
No, he dumped the first shot. He dumped the shot in the net, and the match was over, and the whole crowd went crazy. And I stood up even, calling foot fault, which was the stupidest thing anybody could ever do. I mean, can you imagine my entire tennis career would have ended if that match had ended on a foot fault?
Unbelievable.
And who was in the chair? Was that Tim Heckler?
No, Tim was the referee. Yeah, it was Jason Morton, who was the pro at University Club in Houston at the time.
So
So,
go ahead.
you want to hear a funny thing? Ken and I had the same vet. And one day I was dropping off my dog and Ken was leaving. And the receptionist started telling me about the Battle of Sexes match. And I said, do you know anything about tennis? And she said, no, we just know him. So see, even the receptionist at the vet knew the story, Ken.
That's funny.
You never heard that story?
That's new to me. I love it.
That's right. So the infamous Battle of the Sexes is not over. Yeah, according to Ken McAllister, right?
Right.
And the rest of the story is in the book, right? Is that correct?
It's in the book.
There is a couple of references to things that happened in the match in the book. Yep.
Coach K, who's your favorite tennis player?
Oh, can I say 4 of them?
Sure,
My favorite man, American, is Sampras. My favorite woman is Chrissy Evert. And when she retired, I didn't know if I'd recover in women's tennis because I really did. I was a fan of Chrissy's. My 2 favorite internationals are Federer and Laver.
What a list.
That's a pretty good one right there.
The best.
Lone Ranger, what about you? Don't say any of these. Nobody in this group can be your favorite player. So don't besides these people.
They're all my favorites. But I actually, when I was a kid growing up, like I said, I had the opportunity. Lou Hode and Pancho Gonzalez came through town, one of those barnstorming tours that Kramer had going, and they played Memorial Coliseum, and I got to watch Pancho Gonzalez. I was a ball boy for Pancho Gonzalez and Lou Hode. And Pancho Gonzalez, I mean, that guy, I tried, that's who I wanted to model my game after. But as I got into watching the game and watching other players over the years, Rod Laver, to me, is just, my favorite all-time player. He's great. And the women, Martina Navratilova, I think is, she's superb, not only in singles but doubles. And so those are my favorite players of all time.
So did Pancho, did he have a bigger serve than Steve Denton? And this is a serious question because I know that Pancho, by many, had a better serve, maybe the best serve in the game. So you were right there. So what do you think?
Well, it was his motion. It was just so fluid, and I think it was very deceptive. And he could place the ball on a dime, moved it around. They didn't have radar guns back then, so I couldn't tell you if he hit it any harder than Steve Denton.
But it was pretty hard, wasn't it? It was. It was a big serve.
Well, it was just well placed and had some pace on it. That's for sure. But and
he hit it with a wood racket.
With the wood, yeah. Pancho Gonzalez Spalding, right?
He had a Spalding, yeah.
Yeah. I walked in when I was in college. We were playing Florida State, and after the match, we walked in the locker room, and there was Pancho Gonzalez. He was sitting in a locker, and there was Lou Cooper and Anderson and Neil Frazier. I guess no, it wasn't Neil Frazier. It might have been Hode at that time. The 4 of them were doing the barnstorm thing that Ron was talking about, and they were doing an exhibition match that night at Florida State University on the gym floor. So we went to all the team went to the match, and Gonzalez went nuts. They're playing for $400 for the main match, and he goes nuts on a line call and screams at the guy he had to leave. So they asked the crowd for another linesman, and our coach, Dick Lefevre, volunteered. So he finished up calling the baseline for that match.
Incredible. Mid-match.
Right. Come on out of the crowd. Yeah. D-Webb, what about your favorite players of all time?
Mine would be Stefan Edberg and Rod Laver, and then Martina.
Interesting. Boy, Martina gets
overall games.
A lot of love there. Not Steffi Graf?
I liked her too.
Right. But not enough. Not like Martina, huh?
Well, I think just Martina had a little bit better overall game.
I do feel a lot of people who appreciate Laver feel like Martina played like Laver in a big way. Yeah. The similar lefty, the similar ethos of always attacking. Those are certainly 2 of my favorites.
I like watching that 30 for 30, her and Chris. How many times they play each other? Like 75 or 80 times, the most in history of any sport.
More than Rafa and Djokovic.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's something crazy that they played that many times in big matches. They were always there. We start thinking about that, and as tennis historians, that's never going to be broken.
And a huge chunk of those were semis and finals.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jenny Gray, what say you?
The first 3 that pop in my mind are Pete Sampras, James Blake, and old school Mary Pierce.
Oh, wow.
Wow, there we go. Mary Pierce. So is she French or American?
I don't know. Flip a coin.
Both, huh?
She's even from Montreal, too, so she's kind of American and Canadian.
Right.
And depends on the day, eh?
Right.
Yeah. she has hit tweeners forward facing and backward facing.
Yes, I've
That's
seen
a
that.
style. That's a great choice. Well done.
Yep. Doc Watson, what about you?
Oh, I'd probably have to say Agassi, just because when I was, getting serious into the game, he was big, but I just loved the way he played, took the ball early, crushed his groundies.
Same hairstyle, too. Same hairstyle.
And then later, I loved his haircut. I thought it was spot on.
So you decided to imitate him, right? Just shave it all off.
I just loved it. And then as he got, I remember hearing him speak at our national conference in Vegas, and I just remember this is after, he kind of reborn, but I just remember thinking, wow, this guy just really had his priorities right at that point. And I loved listening to him speak, and I became an even bigger fan after that. And then James Blake as well, just as I had a chance, I actually ran into him at a bar when they were playing Davis Cup in Oklahoma City. And he ended up, the nicest guy. He hung out with us for 3 hours playing pool, and couldn't have been any nicer. Just down to earth, great guy, and became a huge fan after that. And I like the way he played too, but just the fact that he took that time and hung with us and talked tennis and anything else, I thought was pretty cool.
Matt, was that before or after that amazing match Andre and James played? I believe it was the quarters of the U.S. Open, and it was 7-6. Fifth. You were at that match, 7-6 in the fifth.
Yes, yeah.
I loved every minute of that.
I was sitting right, on court behind their chairs. I used to go up. Of course, everybody knows Frommeth, and I used to became friends with Pat and the gal that was the Nike account manager, and she was there with some Frommeth people, and she's like, "Hey, we're not using our tickets for the match yet," and I didn't know where they were. I was just like, "Yeah, we'll take them." So we go in, and I'm looking at the tape, and we just keep walking down the stairs further and further. And I was like, we were sitting in the front row behind their seats, and it was the most unbelievable match I've ever seen.
What a match. That was a solid 4 hours, too.
He picks two guys that are the same hairstyle, too.
Same, yeah.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Yeah, it sure is.
And they both had big hair
at one
before
time.
They went with the shave.
Did you have big hair at one time when you were at Nickabob?
I had a lot of hair at one point, believe it or not.
Yeah.
All right, last question. This is it. This is always the one that's a lot of fun because we've had some great answers on this. If you all were the tennis commissioners, we'll go one by one, and we'll ask you all this question. And you could make a change or changes if you wanted to the great game, or if you didn't want it, you think it's fine the way it is. What say you, Kenny Mack? Would you make any changes to the game, or would you leave it the way it is, or kind of what's your thoughts on where we are at the moment?
Well, you're asking the question as if there's a realistic answer to it.
This is hypothetical.
Yeah, right. Because I think, and it connects with what everybody's been saying all through this podcast, that there was a time when you just showed up, like at Richland Tennis Center, and you just hung out, and you think of all the players like Billie Jean King and others who grew up in public tennis and everything, that I'm a believer that everything happens locally. It starts locally and goes from there. And we're talking, when we're talking about that, we're talking about people starting in their neighborhoods, in their schools and that sort of thing. And so if I had the power of a commissioner and everything, I'd really go back to grassroots tennis and at the local level and build it up, trying to build the pride in each of the neighborhoods rather than doing it on either a statewide or national level, and try to get it to where we just enjoy going there and want to stick around and it's public.
Coach K, what about you?
Well, my answer is I try to put more fun in the game. I don't think that we've lost a little bit of that. And then my question would be kind of back to you all, maybe in the fact that it may, to me, I would cut the season for the pro people, because I think overexposure is there, and with that overexposure, people really aren't excited sometimes with the tournaments that are being played. And whereas we look forward to the Super Bowl every year, we look forward to the World Series, we look forward to those things. And it seems like tennis, you can turn it on anytime and you get tennis. And it just doesn't seem to me now, and it may simply be because of my age, and I've seen a lot of tennis in my lifetime, and maybe that's what happens. But I generally feel that we have overexposure in our professional tennis. And then at our local, like Ken said, at the local levels, I would put more things in local levels, the fun thing, and maybe not emphasize the rankings and those kind of things near as much. I think you have to have the rankings because I think it demands it, but we don't have to maybe put it where we're actually losing interest from the rankings.
Good answer there. The non-PhD Ron Woods?
Well, I've always felt like the way the tennis is organized is too top heavy. That I agree with Ken and Dick is that there needs to be more funding down into the grassroots level. I think there needs to be programs where kids that can't afford tennis can get out and be exposed to it and have some help with people that know how to teach the game, to make it fun for them. So that's, if I was Czar Tennis, I'd be pruning that tree at the top, and I'd be dropping a lot of those funds back down into the communities and try to get, and I'm not just talking Dallas or Houston, but I mean really trying to spread it out. We were talking about Bastrop a minute ago. What's happened to tennis in Bastrop? Or there's a little town, Kingsville, right down from Corpus, and used to be a hotbed for tennis, but it's nothing much going on there. So I just think there needs to be more funding, get that egg, that golden egg that Goose lays up in New York City from the U.S. Open, and take that money and spread it down into the grassroots and hire more people to help go out and be Pied Pipers for the game and help, institute programs and some instruction. But like I say, just more programming, get people out playing. But you need someone that you can hire that's not an easy thing to do, because you got to find someone who's got a passion for it and try to get them out there. I mean, just like everybody that's on this program has a passion for what we do. And it's hard to find people like that nowadays to have a real passion to get out and try to do something. That's why it's hard to find volunteers nowadays. But that's what I would do if I was czar. I would, like I say, I'd fund the grassroots heavily.
Doc Watson, what about you?
Oh, well, I'll speak to it maybe just from a playing or entertainment perspective. I think college tennis has done some things to make it more exciting to watch, enjoyable for non-tennis players, even that, and of course those are all potential tennis players, but, live ball led and letting the crowd be more involved. From the pro standpoint, in terms of some of the, like where they've done some on-court coaching, I think is always interesting. And it's kind of fun to hear them speak. And I would like to see more of that, where they allow some on-court coaching and maybe even mic them up just to hear what's going on. I like when I watch some golf tourneys, and sometimes they got those guys mic'd up listening to the caddies and the players talk. It's just interesting to hear, what they're talking about before shots, or, and sometimes it's not even related to golf. But I just think that would help bring some interest. Because again, you're trying to find more and more ways to attract more players. And I think from that standpoint, when you're talking about, televised events or participation, going to a sporting event, how can you just add some more excitement to the event? And I think college tennis has done a good job of that. I mean, if you go to a TCU match, man, it is fun. It's a lot of fun. SMU, I know, is doing a lot of good things, and they're getting great crowds out as well. I haven't been over to the matches, but I know a lot of our folks have.
Yeah.
But I've been to several TCU matches.
So what about Chiefs or Buccaneers?
Seriously? Maybe that question.
I knew I could get him right there.
My homie. Me and my homie. Come on.
So does anybody think? I'm going to go with Tampa Brady.
You're going with Brady. That's right. Bucks.
Shut him off. Turn him off.
Turn off his mic. Turn off his mic.
Got it.
David Webb, what say you? We're gonna say the secret square for the middle for the last because Jenny knows the most. So D Webb, what do you think?
She does. I would kind of ditto what Ron says. I think we've thrown too much money up at the quote top players, and the kids that have never had any chance to do it. I mean, we've gone. I've got my staff. This is going to sound like I'm bragging. I'm not. We've taken our staff to some of the elementary schools back before COVID, pre-COVID, and we just did some clinics with their PE classes and just let the kids. And man, to see those kids smile and just, oh my gosh, never had an opportunity to do that because a lot of the schools around us are Title I or lower in, income stuff. But I think if we're really wanting to get more and more people out playing, we've got to like he said, make it more affordable to them. I mean, it does cost some money to play, but also just to get a racket in their hand. I mean, what was it during the COVID? Walmart racket sales were up 40% on just a piece of aluminum racket, just because people were wanting to get out and hit and stuff. And who knows? Maybe we've gotten some new people coming out because of that. So if we just get them, I think if we can get them on the court, I think it's our jobs as the pros and directors and stuff to keep them on the courts. We just got to get them there to start.
A real good answer. All right, the middle square, the secret sauce from Jenny Gray. The pro of the year. The pro of the year. She's got to have some knowledge.
No pressure.
Matt kind of tainted mine. He stole mine. Thanks, Matt. No, I think we need to play out the let. I mean, college tried it. Think how funny it would be to see some of these juniors or even in the pros playing out the let. You want to talk about fun and entertainment? I think that would just throw a dynamic in it that try it and see what happens.
That's easy to do, because it's not going to take away anything from the court or anything like that.
It'll take a lot away. I mean, they've been doing it in men's college tennis. When Craig aces me, I like to say let.
It's always,
it's going to take that away. So I'm a little sad.
I bang my racket down. It's like, no way. You cannot be serious.
He used to ace people 10 times a match, and now it's only 1 or 2. I don't know what happened, man.
That phantom let, that damn phantom let.
I'm with you. I love watching it, and I've practiced it with students and my own self, and it's pretty darn fun to play the let, especially when it comes up here,
Anything else? Do you have anything besides the phantom let?
I agree with all the others saying, we just have to make opportunities that aren't there for some of our grassroots programs and get people out on the courts that don't have the opportunity now.
That is the real message. Thank you all. That was awesome.
Yes. Well, we've taken a lot of your time tonight. We've taken it almost 2 hours. We're at 1 hour and 53 minutes right now. We know it's way past Matt Watson's bedtime. So he's.
I have a question for you guys.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Uh-oh.
Give me what's the deal with the logos on the caps?
Oh, his? Go ahead.
Mine is we had Fred Viancos on the show, and he of course is the COO of the USPTA. But my question to him was more about when he worked at the ATP after he was a player. The funny subtext was he believes that I'm the only person who's ever seen one of his matches as a fan, as a paying customer. because I saw him in Forest Hills, New York, in Queens, and it was him and I forgot his doubles partner, but he was playing one of my favorites. So that led to the question, hey, Fred, what was your favorite of the iterations of the ATP logo? When I was a kid, it looked just like Arthur Ashe in the red, white, and blue ATP logo. Then it became this one. Then it was the Sampras, and now it's the guy going like this, and you can't really tell who it is. Fred's answer was Neon Leon. So my birthday gift to Craig a couple weeks ago was one of these, and I thought, I was able to get one for myself, too. So that's the story on my hat. How about Craig Bell?
The W is for woke. I'm very woke. If you all look right there. See right there, W?
That was Watson.
Yeah, Watson.
No?
That's it right there.
Webb.
Oh, Webb.
Webb.
Come on, really?
Actually,
that's that?
Woods also, too. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Actually, that's the Flying W from Weber State University in Ogden, Utah. So
alma mater.
Yes.
Utah.
That's right. Yeah, it's really cold up there. That's why I live down here.
That's it.
I got to Texas really fast and just stayed here myself, kind of like Coach King right there. I was not heading back that way. Great place to be in the summertime, but wintertime, I'm going down where Jenny is. You need a pro, Jenny?
You're going further south.
Yeah, oh yeah. I'm coming down to Sonterra Country Club in San Antonio, right there. But
hey, Craig.
Yeah.
Can I just put something out there? My high school coach, Jerry Franklin, played college tennis at what was Lubbock Christian College back then.
Sure, yeah.
And it's now LCU, Lubbock Christian University. They are in the process of fundraising to get the tennis program back up and going.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
And they're looking to get $600,000. They're $15,000 short right now.
Really? That's it?
I just want to put that out there. If there's anybody that's looking for a nice place to make a donation or something like that, like I said, they're about $15,000 short. And so Coach Franklin means a whole lot to me. He unfortunately only had him for 3 years, and then he went to Wichita Falls, but he was we were talking about mentors before and stuff. He's very important to me. And so anything I can do to kind of help spread the word that they're looking to get that program back up. They've already made an announcement that they're having a groundbreaking ceremony February 13th this year. And so it's happening. And so if anybody's needing a place to make a charitable donation, then
do you know who a contact person would be? Is there a...
Yeah, give us an email. Oh, it's you.
Oh, David Webb.
I mean, you can contact me, and I can get it to him.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you have can you tell everybody your email address or where they can reach North Richland Hills Tennis, or is that... Go ahead.
At Richland Tennis Center, and the email is dwebb, DWEBB, at, and it's long, richland-tennis-center.com.
There we go. Very
excellent.
Nice. So that's couch change for Matt Watson. So I'm sure.
I know it is.
I think Kenny Mac's probably got that in his pocket right now.
That's right. There we go.
Well, that's awesome, especially right now when you're hearing about so many tennis programs getting cut.
Yes,
we actually have a university adding tennis. So
I'm hoping that they can get over the hump. Like I said, they've already committed to it. They're going to start it, I think, in 2022. So
both men and women.
I'm excited for him because I know how much he's put into this to get it working and stuff.
Is this both men and women? Is what you're saying?
I
right?
believe so. Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, it's nice to know that LCU they're making a big push. I know Matt Watson's buddy Craig Carcino over at T-Bar M. His son
track.
Yeah, goes out
right.
there.
Nathan is a track athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
LCU. They've made a really nice. I looked on their website the other maybe a couple of months ago and just kind of perusing. They've made a huge athletic push, and it's really nice. Yeah. They're going to be knocking down Tech pretty soon, right? And a bunch of stuff. Maybe.
Well,
getting there.
You never know.
That's right. All right. It's not a one-horse town. It's a two-horse town, right?
No.
No.
We're hoping so. Who knows?
At some point, but. Well, thanks, David, for the shout out. Anybody who's got a spare $1 or two to help fund some tennis out for those good folks at Lubbock Christian, give Mr. Dave a shout out at North Richland Hills. Correct?
Yeah, Richland Tennis Center, North Richland Hills, Texas.
There we go. All right. Well, everybody, I think, it's been great. We are at the 2-hour mark right now. I'm sitting here looking at the timer, and we appreciate your time. And it's been a lot of fun. It went fast. As usual, I knew it would go fast.
It flew. Big thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
You are such luminaries and such mentors to all of us. And just a quick thank you from not just us, from our audience, too. That was tremendous.
No, everybody had a good time. That we've got some people, commenting about looks like Nick Smith once again. He's saying the Doors. He's talking. He likes the Doors. So that's
talking about the music.
The music right there. So it must be on a delay up to Denison, Texas. That was about 30 minutes ago, Nick. So
that's funny.
But gang, sayonara. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the invite. Appreciate it. Enjoyed it.
Thanks for the invite.
Man, it's been awesome. Well, I wish we could do it in person. Next time we'll do it in person because at least we still had the Zoom, but it's better in person as always.
Always.
You can fly us up to Dallas?
Yeah, we are. We will. Yeah, we're getting that kind of budget. I got to get that extra money over to David first, and then we'll get the money to bring everybody up and have some pizza and beer, and then we'll really sit around and have a barbershop, right?
There we go.
And then
we will.
We'll get Matt some hair maybe at that time.
And me.
I'll show you guys how to do it.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Everybody, good night. Thank you. Craig Bell with the dismount.
Dismount. That's right. Well, we had a great time tonight, didn't we?
That was tremendous. Yeah,
a lot of fun right there. There they go. All those luminaries right there. You can, if you want to listen, you can.
Yeah, you can stick around. We're going to do the dismount and preview the next couple shows.
Here we go, Mr. James Campbell. There we go. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to Season 1, Episode 75. 75, AJ?
75, not too shabby.
About the Net Podcast. Join us next week. Next week.
We're going to be 1 week from right now. We've got a pretty big deal.
That's right.
He's played in the Australian Open, and he will be our Australian Open preview guest.
That's correct. It won't be on Super Bowl Sunday. We're going to try to get him at a different day because next Sunday is Super Bowl Sunday. We certainly don't want to. We would have viewers, but not necessarily.
No, we don't want to take away from America's, the huge pastime.
That's right.
So we're probably going to go with Saturday night with Eric Carita.
Eric Carita, big server, at one time held the largest serve at one time in the men's game and was one of the original voluntary kids down in Fort Lauderdale.
We're going to explore some of that childhood, and I'll probably fanboy a little bit and tell him he was on the Prince poster in my tennis club in the fitting room. It's so funny.
Yeah. It's going to be fun talking with Eric, and also join us on Wednesday night. We'll be here Wednesday night doing some tennis shorts, right?
Yeah, go see us on Instagram for tennis shorts. What's in Craig Bell's tennis shorts?
And that's not much.
We get to find out.
We always know that isn't a whole lot. But we do 2 legs of the short. We always have something that's kind of hopefully unique. We were down at the tennis ranch at John Newcomb's this past week. It was kind of fun.
That's right.
Being down in the New Braunfels area, talking about the historic Newcomb Tennis Academy, right?
Yep.
Or tennis ranch there. And lastly, be sure to tell a friend or friends because we like your peeps, and hopefully they'll like us, right?
Share it, subscribe, follow. You know what to do.
Right. Well, everybody, thank you all very much for joining us in that special barbershop style format. That was a lot of fun.
That was a blast. Thank you, everybody.
We're going to be doing something like this again, I think, in the future because I've really enjoyed that format. I thought it worked really well. I think everybody had a good time. So that's the tennis news as it seems to us. Good night, everybody.